In ancient Athens, a simple piece of pottery held the power to change a person's life forever. With just a name scratched onto a shard, a citizen could be exiled from the city for 10 years, sent away from family, friends, and everything familiar. This wasn't a punishment for a crime, but a radical tool designed to protect the fragile experiment of democracy. The Athenians believed that sometimes the greatest threat to freedom came not from outside invaders, but from within their own ranks. Ostracism was their answer, a unique safeguard to prevent any one citizen from gaining too much influence or power. It was a check against tyranny, a way to keep ambitious politicians in line and remind everyone that the city belonged to its people. The process was simple yet profound. Citizens would gather, each scratching the name of the person they thought posed a danger onto a pottery shard. If 6,000 people agreed, that individual was forced to leave Athens for a decade. No trial, no defense, just the will of the majority. There was no courtroom drama, no lengthy debates over guilt or innocence. Ostracism was swift and decisive, a collective decision made in the open, meant to safeguard the freedom of all. This wasn't about personal revenge or settling old scores. It was a powerful warning to those who might overreach. In Athens, the people held the ultimate authority, and no one was above their judgment. The process was public, direct, and undeniably ruthless, a stark reminder that democracy was always a work in progress, constantly tested and redefined by its citizens. The Athenians placed their faith in the wisdom of the crowd, believing that together, ordinary people could make extraordinary decisions for the good of the city. They trusted themselves to recognize threats before they could take root, acting as vigilant guardians of their own freedom and future. Ostracism transformed every citizen into an active participant in democracy, not just a bystander. Each vote was a reminder that the health of the city depended on the involvement of all. Today, the idea of exiling a leader by popular vote might seem extreme, even shocking. But for the Athenians, it was a sign of how seriously they took their responsibility as citizens, and how far they were willing to go to protect their democracy. Those broken pieces of pottery are more than just ancient relics. They are powerful symbols of a society built on vigilance, participation, and the radical belief that ordinary people should rule themselves. Before democracy, Athens was ruled by a handful of wealthy aristocrats. These elite families controlled not just the land, but the very heart of the city's politics, religion, and economy. Their power was absolute, and their influence stretched into every corner of Athenian life. Ordinary people had no say in how they were governed. The voices of farmers, craftsmen, and merchants were ignored, leaving most Athenians powerless and frustrated. The city teetered on chaos, as resentment simmered just beneath the surface. The rich made the laws, judged the people, and led the army, all for their own benefit. They protected their own interests, often at the expense of the many. Debt crushed small farmers, who struggled to survive under the weight of unfair taxes and harsh penalties. If they couldn't pay, they lost their land or were sold into slavery. Families were torn apart, and generations of Athenians lived in fear of losing everything. This debt bondage created a society where the rich grew richer, and the poor lost hope. The gap between the classes widened, and the dream of a better life faded for many. Tension simmered, and Athens was on the brink of civil war. Anger and desperation filled the streets as the people demanded change. The people demanded fairness, laws everyone could see, and justice for all, not just the wealthy. They wanted a system where every citizen had a voice, and where the rules were clear and transparent. The old system was failing, and both rich and poor knew change was coming. The city's future hung in the balance, as Athenians debated what should come next. Athens needed a leader to bridge the divide and prevent disaster. Someone who could unite the city and offer hope to those who had lost it. The city was a powder keg, waiting for a spark. Every conversation, every gathering was charged with anticipation and fear. That spark would be a wise statesman who dared to challenge the old order, someone with the courage to rewrite the rules and imagine a new future for Athens. The stage was set for the birth of democracy, a bold experiment that would change not just Athens, but the course of history itself. Solon stepped forward to save Athens. The city was on the brink of collapse, torn apart by debt, inequality, and unrest. The people were desperate for change, and the ruling elite knew something had to be done. In 594 BCE, Solon was entrusted with extraordinary power to reform the city. He was chosen as Archon, the chief magistrate, and given a unique mandate to heal Athens and prevent civil war. His first act was radical. He canceled all debts and freed those who had been enslaved because they could not pay. This bold move instantly changed the lives of countless Athenians, offering hope to the poor and a fresh start to the city. Solon then wrote a new set of laws, inscribing them on wooden tablets and stone pillars for all to see. For the first time, the rules of society were made public, so every citizen could know their rights and responsibilities. He restructured society, organizing citizens by wealth instead of noble birth. This meant that even the poorest men who had once been voiceless now had a say in how Athens was governed. For the first time in Athenian history, all male citizens could attend the assembly, debate, and vote on important matters. This was a revolutionary step toward a more inclusive government. Solon also established a council of 400 citizens to prepare business for the assembly, ensuring that decisions were well considered and not made in haste. He created a people's court, where ordinary citizens could appeal decisions and seek justice, making the legal system more fair and accessible. Not everyone was satisfied. The aristocrats resented losing their grip on power, while the poor, though better off, hoped for even more change. Solon's reforms were a careful balance, and compromise was inevitable. Solon understood that his reforms would not please all, but he believed he had given Athens a solid foundation for a new kind of government, one based on fairness and participation. After enacting his laws, Solon made a surprising decision. He left Athens for 10 years, forcing the people to live under the new system and work out their differences without his guidance. Solon had planted the seeds of democracy, but he knew it would take time, and perhaps another leader, to make those seeds grow and truly flourish. His changes gave ordinary people a real stake in their government and a sense of hope for the future. The great experiment of democracy had begun, and the world would never be the same. Athens was on a new path, one that would inspire generations to come and shape the course of history. A century after Solon, Cleisthenes took democracy further. In 508 BCE, after tyranny threatened Athens, Cleisthenes broke the power of aristocratic clans. He reorganized citizens into 10 new tribes, mixing people from city, coast, and countryside. This forced Athenians to see themselves as citizens first, not just members of a family or clan. The new tribes shattered old loyalties and made politicians appeal to a broader public. Cleisthenes expanded the council to 500, with members chosen by lottery from each tribe. This random selection meant any citizen could serve, not just the elite. Through these reforms, Cleisthenes gave real power to the people. Athens became the world's first true democracy, ruled by the people, for the people. The revolution was complete. The heart of Athenian democracy was the assembly, where any adult male citizen could speak and vote. The assembly met on the Nix Hill, sometimes with thousands in attendance, to decide laws, elect officials, and make decisions about war and peace. There were no representatives. Citizens governed themselves directly. Anyone could address the crowd, from generals to shoemakers. Debates were lively, and persuasion was key. Voting was by show of hands, and the majority ruled. The system demanded active, informed citizens, and placed immense trust in ordinary people. Of course, skilled speakers could sway the crowd, and mistakes were made, but the principle was revolutionary. Political power belonged to the people. The assembly was democracy in action, a living symbol of self-government. For the first time, a major state was run by its citizens. The experiment was bold, imperfect, and world-changing. Athens showed what was possible when people ruled themselves. The assembly needed order, and that's where the Council of 500 came in. Chosen by lottery, 50 citizens from each tribe served for a year, ensuring a mix of backgrounds and ideas. The council set the agenda, drafted laws, and managed city business. Members could only serve twice, spreading experience and preventing domination by any group. The council also oversaw finances, public works, and supervised officials. Each tribe took turns as the executive committee, living together on duty in the tholos. This system kept power rotating and involved ordinary citizens in running the city. The council was the engine room of democracy, turning the people's will into action. In Athens, justice was in the hands of the people. Large juries chosen by lottery decided cases, no professional judges or lawyers. Both sides argued their own case before hundreds of fellow citizens. Jurors voted in secret, and the majority decided guilt or innocence. If guilty, the jury chose the punishment from proposals by both sides. This system made bribery and intimidation difficult, and gave every citizen a voice in justice. The people's courts were a cornerstone of democracy, ensuring laws were enforced by the community. All citizens were equal before the law, and even powerful officials could be held accountable. Justice was truly by the people. Athenian democracy was radical in a world ruled by kings and oligarchs. Most ancient states were monarchies or ruled by a few elites. Ordinary people had no say. In Sparta, power belonged to a small warrior class. Most had no rights. Athens feared tyranny above all, designing systems to prevent any one person from seizing control. Ostracism and wide distribution of power set Athens apart. Compared to monarchy, oligarchy, or tyranny, Athenian democracy was a bold experiment in self-rule. It wasn't perfect. Women, slaves, and foreigners were excluded, but it was the first system to give real power to ordinary citizens. Athens became a beacon of political possibility. The world had never seen anything like it. Athenian democracy lasted less than 2 centuries, but its ideas lived on. Philosophers like Plato and Aristotle studied and critiqued it, influencing later generations. During the Enlightenment, thinkers like Locke and Rousseau looked to Athens for inspiration. The founders of modern democracies, especially the United States, borrowed from the Greek experiment. Today, concepts like trial by jury, civic duty, and open debate trace back to Athens. Our democracies are bigger and more inclusive, but they rest on the foundation laid by the Athenians. Their experiment reminds us that democracy is a process, not a destination. It requires participation and vigilance. If you're inspired by this story, subscribe for more incredible tales from history.